I'd now like to introduce to you Robin Eckermann. Robin's been working with RDA ACT and RDA Southern Inland on the capability project, and he'll provide some insights on what he's discovered.
Thanks, Peter. I'm not sure I've got a lot to say that hasn't already been said, so I'll just pick out a few thoughts and share them with you. I discovered the internet about 20 years ago, shortly after pioneers like Peter led the way in bringing it to Australia, and it struck me at the time that this would change the world, and I've not been disappointed in that. I'm convinced that when future generations look back on this chapter in history, they'll characterise it as the communications revolution, following on from industrial revolution and agricultural revolution and so on. And broadband is one of the enabling foundations for that. One of the great privileges I had earlier in my career was leading the creation of TRANSACT. But at the end of the day, the innovation doesn't lie in the network, and plumbing is all very important. The NBN's doing some things to improve it, both improve the speeds available to Australians and also bring the cost down to more equitable levels across the whole society. That's not really where the innovation takes place. It's rather in the applications and services and uses we make of this technology to change the way we live, work and play. So whilst these innovations are important and welcome, the digital economy has been with us already for decades, and it's going to continue to evolve as a global phenomena, and largely independent of network upgrades. Now, there's an old Chinese proverb which says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And in the same vein, even if you missed getting on board the digital economy way back when it started unfolding, the time to get engaged with it is now. And that's true whether you're lucky enough to be in an early rollout area like some of you here in Gungahlin, or whether things like the NBN upgrades that will unfold are some indeterminate time into the future. Maybe it's tempting to think that teleworking is something for small, flexible businesses. Not that Cisco's small or flexible, but it's great to see companies like that embracing it. I'd put it to you, the impact is going to be a whole lot broader. Mick's talked about that. This is not something that may happen, it's rather something that is happening and will happen, and it's a case of taking the tiger by the tail and steering it to the outcomes we want. If the federal public service moves to achieve 12% of people teleworking by 2020, state public services will have to follow, private sector will have to follow just to compete to attract employees. It might also be tempting to think it's only something that white-collar workers can engage in, but I challenge you to let your imaginations run a little over the horizon. And one of the things we've toyed about showing was a little video clip today. You may have seen it in the news where CSIRO have introduced a robot that lets people remotely explore the Australian Museum. There's lots of fantastic examples where the technology is enabling things way beyond the information industries. So in the Northern Territory, for example, local practitioners who are dealing with a difficult medical case can call in help from thousands of kilometres away to deal with a difficult procedure. In Western Australia, you've got mines moving to driverless trucks with control from remote centres back in Perth. Perhaps a little more contentiously, the US conducts much of its surveillance and many operational activities using drones that are controlled halfway around the world. And maybe the most extreme example is the scientists in NASA who are exploring Mars with a rover that's remotely controlled from Earth. There are some challenges when the distances get so great, but I'll put it to you that we will see more opportunities unfold than just producing information, policies and papers of the sort of thing we do here in Canberra. So there's not going to be a flood of opportunities like that in the immediate future, but I'm convinced you'll see them unfold. The attractions are obvious in teleworking. To the people involved, the saving in travel time and costs and reduction in risk. Peter or Tim and Mick have talked about the benefits to employees, where above a certain threshold you can start to bank the savings. It can also lead to greater staff satisfaction. I think Peter would comment that he's missing some of those flexible arrangements that he enjoyed at Cisco at the moment. And there are lots of good reports on the productivity improvements. Just even those who don't telecommute will benefit if this whole thing gathers momentum. Some years ago I was involved in a study that looked at the impact of taking just 5% of vehicles off the road of any given day. What it does is it unlocks this holiday phenomena where people will comment in the school holidays how quickly they got to work. It turns out, not so much in a city like Canberra, but in a city like Sydney, taking 5% of the traffic off the road on any given day flows through to about a 17% reduction in carbon emissions. The first 5% is obvious, as the cars that aren't there, but the other 95% of the traffic is flowing more smoothly with less starts and stops and delays, and that delivers real benefits to them. The challenges here aren't for the most part technological. Not everybody has the bandwidth at home, but many here in Canberra do have it, and it is possible to solve the bandwidth problem ahead of NBN arriving in an area. It's not necessarily cheap, but it's possible. The bigger challenges lie in the cultural change that has to take place, and things like measuring productivity, not so much in bums on seats, but in outputs and outcomes. I think a city like Canberra can be right at the forefront, Canberra and the surrounding region, in this whole process. We have a set of industries that are very information centric, so better than most cities around Australia, our employers could offer teleworking arrangements, and we have a large population that commutes each day into the city. So all the factors are right here for Canberra to be a leader. And telework centres have a role to play in this. We hear that there's a whole spectrum of opportunities, from working at home to working in a cafe. Telework centres uniquely solve some problems that will challenge employers, providing a more secure working environment, supporting some of the social interaction, providing facilities you just couldn't replicate in every individual's home. So, just as a final thought, I'd say let's step up to this challenge and let this region become a bit of a leader in demonstrating what can be done. That's enough from me, Peter.
Thank you.